get started. Thank you for joining us. So hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for this weekly Our Salem policy meeting focused on economic development and employment. I'm Eunice Kim, the Long Range Planning Manager for the City of Salem. And with me tonight are Austin, Annie, and Tori, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Austin Ross, Long Range Planner with the City of Salem. Happy to be here tonight.
Hello, I'm Tori Banford with the City of Salem Urban Development Department.
Good evening, Annie Gorski with Urban Development Department, Economic Development Manager.
Great. So tonight we're going to give a brief overview of the Our Salem project and where we are in the process. And then our meeting tonight really is going to be focused on 3 different sections. The first section is based on drafted policies that we had written prior to this, prior to now, basically as part of the vision document that we brought to council in March. And those ideas are based on about 1.5 years, 2 years of outreach in the community. We'll then move to new policy ideas where city staff had taken a look at other comprehensive plans in other communities to see are there ideas in those comprehensive plans that might make sense for Salem. And then we'll open it up for your ideas. So all of the ideas that we're presenting tonight are just a small sample of the ideas that we are testing and considering. And so if you go on our project website, which I'll drop in the chat, you can see a fuller list. So as a reminder, we are updating the comprehensive plan. The Our Salem project is a multi-year project to do just that. The comprehensive plan is really the overarching framework that guides how we grow and develop in the future, the next 10, 20, 30 years. It includes goals and policies and a map that really guide that growth and shape our community going forward. So this map shows the city of Salem in the black dashed line, and then the gray portion is the portion that we're actually planning for in the comprehensive plan. It includes the city limits, but it goes beyond city limits to unincorporated areas of Marion and Polk County that are in our portion of the urban growth boundary. So when folks talk about 60,000 more people being in the Salem area by 2035, they're referring to this gray area. We've seen a lot of growth and development in recent years. We anticipate growth in the future, and this is really our opportunity to proactively plan for that growth. So where are we in this project? So as I mentioned earlier, we did a visioning process in the community over the last 1.5 years, 2 years, and that really wrapped up in March, where we brought a vision document to the council and asked for acceptance. That vision document included high-level goals that touched on everything from housing, economic development, the environment, transportation, parks and rec, as well as a map, a proposed map at the comprehensive plan level. And we brought that to council to say, are we headed in the right direction? And if so, will you accept this? And so they accepted that vision. So we're really excited to be kind of moving on to the next stage where we're really diving into the details of policies, zoning code, and zoning map. Tonight, we're really focusing on policies, but we're doing a lot of other outreach on the map and on the zoning code, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So again, this is our third meeting. I guess it's our third series of meetings that we're having between the end of March and the end of May. We're meeting every Wednesday twice, once at noon and once at 5:30 on different topics. Tonight's topic is economic development and employment, but if you're interested in transportation or parks and rec or other topics, please do join us in the future. The noon and 5:30 meetings cover the same material, so don't feel like you need to come back, but you're welcome to. And these meetings are being recorded, and so you can see them on our YouTube channel. Also, as a reminder, we've had a request to put our chat and all the comments and questions in the chat on our project website. So we will be doing that as well. So if you're entering questions in the chat, just want to let you know that will eventually land on our project website. So as I mentioned earlier, tonight's meeting is really focused on 3 different sections. And for each section, we are going to present the policy idea or the previously drafted policy, and then we're going to ask for your input through live polling. This is something that you can do either on a web browser or on your phone through texting, and we'll explain that. And then you can drop questions in the chat as well throughout this meeting, and we'll be happy to answer those. So we're going to do a little practice. Some of you may have joined us for previous policy meetings, and so maybe this is easier now. But for those of you who haven't joined us before, I would ask you to go on to polev/uniskim347, and I will drop that link in the chat now. So you can do that on a web browser or a phone on your phone's browser, or you can text my name, uniskim347, to the number 22333. So instead of texting to a phone number or contact in your phone, you text to 22333. And if you write uniskim347, you should have a message that comes back to you that says, welcome, you're joining Uniskim's session. So as we go through the different questions, you'll see the results appear automatically on the screen. And as we change questions, your browser will change as well if you're using the browser link. On the phone, you can text different letters, and we'll walk through that as well. If you have any technical difficulties while you're doing this, feel free to drop a question in the chat. So this is our test question. Are you ready to do live polling? A for yes, B for no. So if you're on the phone, you can just text A to 22333 or B. And then if you're online, you'll see those options in your browser. And you can change your answers. So you'll see the results change as you go. I'm not sure what the magic number is, but we have a smaller crowd today, so perhaps 6 is everyone.
I think 6 or 7 is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Maybe we can keep going, and if that 7th person is having trouble, they can let us know in the chat.
Great. So this is our vision statement that we had in our vision document that we presented to council, and it really captures the future Salem that folks want to see. So it represents different shared priorities across different topics. So you'll see references to housing and mobility, the environment. But I wanted just to call out here that one of the things we did hear loud and clear is that in order for Salem to be kind of the best Salem it can be, it's really important that local businesses and families are thriving. That's very much obviously tied to economic development. So I just wanted to highlight that as we move into the goals related to economic development and employment. So there's a lot of planning efforts going on in the city in addition to the Our Salem project, and a lot of them are very much related to the work we're doing. The first is the economic development strategy that's being updated right now by the Urban Development Department. That's more focused on the short-term kind of 5-year timeframe, and it's also focused on kind of recovery from this COVID pandemic. And Annie and Tori can share more about that later. And in addition, the Salem strategic plan has been updated, and that was adopted by the council, I think, in March as well. That also has a specific result area related to the economy. And then the Salem Action Plan, Climate Action Plan is underway as well. And a lot of the topics that we're talking about tonight relate to climate, whether it's resiliency or green infrastructure, for example, or green building. So we're collaborating with all of these projects and coordinating. And as you go, you'll see some overlaps, hopefully. So I just want to do a brief overview of the goals that were in that vision document. These are all very high level. So you'll see the first one is making sure we have a very strong and diverse economy. The second one is ensuring that we have enough land that's essentially designated the right way to meet our employment and jobs needs going forward in the future. We have a goal around access and livability, ensuring that people have access to jobs, goods, and services. We have one related to design, and then around workforce and training. So again, these are very high level, and the goal of tonight is to kind of dig into these and get to the details of what policies we should have to support these goals and to support the broader vision statement. So now I'm going to hand it off to Austin, who's going to do the first section of the meeting focused on previously drafted policies.
Thanks, Eunice. So as you heard, we're going to start off with policies that were previously drafted. These were policies that were in the vision document, and they came from community input that we heard earlier in the process. So the idea is that although we heard these ideas from community members earlier, we haven't tested the actual policies themselves with the public. So we want to get at these ideas and find out if people still support them. So we're trying not to wordsmith tonight. You'll notice that when the policies come up, they've been abbreviated somewhat from what was in the vision document. So it's important to know that we're not focusing on the specific wording, but just the idea behind the policy. As Eunice said, this is a small sample of all the policies that we have drafted already. So check out the website to see the rest of them, but these were the ones we felt were important to test. It's also important to know that the wording here or to explain something about the wording here. So when you see a policy that says something like encourage or promote, that's referring to an incentive. If you see a policy that says require, that's more of a mandate. So in the past, we've had some people asking, well, is this going to mean I have to do something, or is this going to mean the city will help me do something? And so just wanted to clarify that. And as we're going through here, feel free to drop questions about any of these policy ideas or comments that you might have into the chat, and we'll have chances to stop and talk about them. So the first set of policies is about our broader economic development goal. The first one is, got ahead of myself there. Sorry, folks. The first one is related to diversity. So this is economic diversity and encouraging a diverse range of businesses and industries in Salem. The next one is about home businesses. We heard from the community that a lot of people are looking for that flexibility, especially during the pandemic and with some economic changes that have been going on, to have that flexibility to start a business from home if they want to. After that is a policy about displacement and minimizing or working to prevent the displacement of existing businesses, especially due to increased land values and increased rents. And then the fourth is about enhancing downtown Salem as a regional destination and a mixed use center. And so that's really encouraging it to be sort of the focal point of the Mid-Willamette Valley. Okay, so now we'll jump over to that poll, and feel free to vote for all of these that you like. You can vote for all of them or just a couple of them. You're not limited to choosing just one. So if you feel that that policy is a good idea for Salem, go ahead and vote for it. I'll give folks a little bit of time here.
Do you want to go back to the slide so people can see those
Sure.
ideas?
Yeah. So again, diversity is, if you want to choose that one, choose A. Home businesses is B. Somebody says, I don't know how to vote on my phone. So if you're on your phone, you can either use your web browser to go to pollev.com/EuniceKim347, or you can text the words EuniceKim347 to that number 22333. So either of those options will work to get you into the poll. Once you text EuniceKim347 to that number, it should reply and start giving you the questions. So Lynn, let us know if you're still having trouble or if you've been able to get in. Shoot. Well, so the other option, if you use this chat to send messages directly to me, if you still can't get in, I will take notes at the end and we'll make sure your answers get recorded. All right, so maybe Eunice can help troubleshoot that and we'll keep moving on to the next group.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, so the next group of policies is related to land supply. So the first one is about reserving land for emerging industries. And so accommodating new technologies, new industries, economic changes by ensuring that there's a variety of sizes and settings for these different kinds of businesses. So whether that's different size parcels or parcels with different types of zoning, that's what that refers to. The second is about brownfields. So brownfields are proper lands that may have been contaminated previously. And so this policy is about assessing those sites, cleaning them up, and then making them developable. After that is a policy about the Willamette River and encouraging that to be a mixed-use riverfront that is like a revitalized waterfront that's walkable, and to do that while also protecting the scenic qualities of the land. So we'll jump over to the next poll. So the policy about emerging industries is A, brownfields is B, and the Willamette River is C. We'll give people a minute to vote here, and I'm going to jump back to those policies so you can read them. So we have a question here that says emerging industries is super broad, not sure what I'm voting for. So I think it is broad. You're right. Part of the reason for that is that this is a long-term plan that's looking out over a 20-year time horizon. And so emerging industries could refer to businesses that emerge as a result of new technology, or shifting dynamics in our economy. And sometimes it could be hard to predict exactly what those might be. So yeah, it is a little bit vague. If anybody else wants to chime in about that, feel free. All right, so it looks like people have had a chance to vote, so let's keep rolling. The next set is related to access and livability. So the first is about neighborhood hubs, and that's the idea of allowing some small scale businesses within residential neighborhoods, whether that's a small shop or services, coffee shop sort of a thing, or maybe some social services and things like that. So this policy would be about supporting the creation of those neighborhood hubs to improve local access, make neighborhoods a little bit more walkable so that people have that as an option to meet their daily needs. Access to childcare is about allowing childcare more broadly in Salem and allowing it in more areas. So we've heard that that's a need for working parents, but also people who provide childcare for a living. So just making that a broader option in our city. Transit-oriented development refers to keeping our densest walkable mixed-use development along corridors with frequent transit. So that might mean Chariot's core network, where we're sure that there will be frequent transit service for a long time to come, and encouraging our densest development there so that it's pedestrian friendly and transit accessible. And then the last one, development impacts, is about mitigating any offsite impacts of businesses and industries. So that could be noise or odor or vibration or a host of things. And this is something we typically already do, but this policy would make it, I guess, more official, so that that couldn't change in the future. So jumping over to the poll, go ahead and vote for that, and I'll keep the policies on the screen for you. Looks like maybe some votes are still coming in. Somebody's asking, comment carryover from last week. Neighborhood hubs are great. The streets are developed to support it in the local vicinity. So I hope that'll be part of the criteria. So yes, definitely. We've heard that it's important to make sure these hubs are cited correctly. So we've used in the ones that staff has proposed, ideas like sidewalk development, access to transit, access to parks or schools, and making sure that they're not too close to other commercial or mixed use areas as ways to cite them. So those are factors that we are considering. That's a good point. All right. Move on to the next one here. So this is the last group, and it is about design and workforce training. So the first is about pedestrian friendly design, and that's encouraging commercial and mixed use development to be pedestrian friendly. So whether that's having buildings up close to the sidewalk to make them more pedestrian friendly, or just more pedestrian connections through existing parking lots, things like that. The community amenities policy would be about encouraging community amenities within, public community amenities within commercial and mixed use development. So whether that was a community meeting room or maybe even a community garden, something like that in a bigger development, so that it was an asset to the whole neighborhood. The training policy is about supporting job training, career training, and multilingual workforce programs to make sure that our workforce meets our work needs, employment needs. And then the opportunity policy is about incentivizing businesses to hire locally and to provide educational opportunities for their employees so that they can move up the career ladder. So onto the poll here. We'll get your responses to that. And I will jump back over to the policies. We've got a question about what are some additional examples of community amenities. So like I was saying, it could be something as simple as like a community meeting room. I know that a lot of community groups right now meet at either schools or churches, but some groups don't necessarily have access to those types of facilities. So there's a need for meeting space generally that we've heard in the past. It could also refer to like a public amenity at a bus stop. And so whether that's maybe a small plaza or something like that where people can sit and wait for the bus. Those are a couple ideas that come to mind. I don't know if Eunice, maybe you have others.
No, I think those are good examples. I mean, with our multifamily design standards today, we, for example, require common open space, and we incentivize active recreational spaces. So covered plaza or a community garden or basketball court or things like that. So we could do something similar for larger commercial and mixed use developments.
All right. So it looks like everybody's had a chance to vote on that one. 7 people. So we'll keep going here. So does anybody have any additional questions or comments about those previously drafted policies before we move on? You're welcome to either drop those in the chat or maybe raise a hand and unmute if you'd like to share that way too. I'll give people just a minute because I know it can take a little while to type in a question. All right. Well, if any questions, oh, there is one. I was jumping the gun. It says, in terms of land supply, is there a conversation about building up versus building out? Eunice, do you want to take that one?
Yes, sure. So that is very much a conversation that we've had throughout the Salem project. I think a lot of the visioning that you'll see in the vision document shows that we are trying to promote mixed use along our frequent transit corridors. So whether that's through infill or redevelopment, that's not to say that we would restrict what could happen on our buildable land that's not in the inner core or along transit, but we're looking at ways to incentivize it, for example. So that's a big conversation we're also having in conjunction with the climate action plan and the work there to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, particularly due to transportation. So it is very much a conversation.
Thanks, Eunice. So if any other questions come up as we go along, we'll have a couple other chances to comment. So let's keep rolling. I'm going to turn it over to Tori for the next section.
All right, again, I'm Tori Banford with the City of Salem Urban Development Department, and going toward the next steps for the economic development portion of the comprehensive plan. So if we could go to the next slide, there we go. So regulatory climate, continued evaluation of the local review and permitting process for cost, speed, clarity, and flexibility. All communities have regulatory processes. The point is to be clear, predictable, and equitable. Information administrators should be accessible and oriented towards solutions and development facilitation. While it's important that development adhere to community standards, obviously growth and infill development should be encouraged inside an Oregon urban growth boundary. And as was mentioned, we're looking at an economic development strategy, and so we'll continue to work with planning on the permitting process to make it clear for developers and being a city resource to those looking to move projects through the process. So going back to the voting, if you agree yes with A, B, no, and C, unsure, if you could go ahead and do that now, thanks. Again, feel free to put comments or questions in the chat and we'll address those. So there's a comment about love if regulations were easy to find on city website and user-friendly with less jargon. It's a good point. That's a continual work in progress on the City of Salem website. There are standards. It's supposed to be geared toward a middle school reading level, and it's challenging. Topics vary, and it's one that we've been vexed with as far as like trying to provide as much information and providing transparency and accessibility, but then there's so much information that it's difficult to navigate. So it's a valid point. And that's exactly what we want to work on. Okay. Economic resilience, coordinating and evaluating existing businesses through the lens of climate change and other natural disasters. There's a recent example of Vancouver, British Columbia, where economic development practitioners are part of the Emergency Operations Center. Emergency Operations Center, again, is where community resources pull together to address a natural disaster, or in the case of what we've gone through with the pandemic, we've had an operations center for that. And so it's making economic development and business resources a part of that. So in preparation, they meet with the businesses and talk about possible climate change impacts and how to make their businesses more resilient. They also developed business recovery plan, which includes tiering their businesses in terms of importance of that business to recovery. This way they know where to focus resources after natural disasters or climate disaster, and in the case of the pandemic as well. Let's go ahead and vote again. Yes, A, B, no, C, unsure on economic resilience.
I would just add that I think a lot of strategies related to resiliency and climate change are going to come out of the Climate Action Plan. So we'll also be looking to that work and incorporating it into our Salem.
All right, I think that's everybody we're waiting for, Tori, so I'll move on to the next one unless somebody wants to share why they're unsure.
Okay, on to competitive advantages. So with this one, focus and highlight the competitive advantages for the Salem area, placing resources into growing these industries and broadening and diversifying the employment profile. Available large lot land supply has been a competitive advantage for Salem. Growth at the Mill Creek Corporate Center is nearing completion, and future industrial opportunities will be more citywide as infill sites. So what you'll see with that change will be a broader range of development possibilities as well as employment opportunities. So it's important to position land resources to capture growth and value added things that are strong for Salem, like food processing, agricultural technology, associated agriculture, food tech, timber products, device manufacturing, and other strengths for Salem, as well as some developing and emerging trends, positioning in a way to capture that and grow that. It's important to train students in the workforce for the jobs of the future. Go ahead and vote yes, no, or unsure, A, B, and C, please.
I just want to say that as a reminder, these are ideas, because they came from other cities, may not seem like they match exactly to Salem. And so if there's broad support for them, we would tailor them more specifically to Salem and Salem's advantages, or the other new policy ideas as well. We would tailor them to our community.
All right, anybody else? All right, thanks.
There are a couple.
Oh, there we go. All right.
All right, let's keep going.
on the sharing economy, so this refers to, for example, drive share like Uber, Lyft, home share, Airbnb, transit, ride share, etc. That's moved into broader aspects of the economy. Place for like office share, gig work, entrepreneurship, crowdfunding. All these methods have become ways to facilitate entrepreneurship, business startups, by mitigating some of those costs up front, sharing the resources across multiple parties. Those costs are reduced, and the barriers to start a new business and advance that business is easier. Funds through crowdfunding, things like that. So what does that mean for the future of the share model in the business realm? It's important to create flexible land use policy to facilitate live work, shared resources like cold storage. So just making sure that the policy facilitates that sharing model that could be expand into a broader realm. 3D printing and new technologies, access to expertise for help businesses start up and grow in Salem. So if this is right fit for Salem, please vote yes, A, B, no, or C, unsure.
Just as a reminder, if you are feeling unsure because you aren't quite sure what this policy is getting at, let us know and we'll do our best to clarify. All right, should we move on, Tori?
Yep, sounds good. Thank you. So this topic is gaining popularity with the pandemic, PPE and things like that. And it goes against, we're very much a global economy. My coworker shared an example from an article you read where the average car park crosses the border 8 times. So it's just one of those things where we're reliant on the global connection. And then when that when that's hampered, we really feel it at home. So it forces us to rethink supply chains and making things at home to accommodate that. And so again, with the pandemic, numerous things became evident with that, the flaws in that type of a system. So how do you balance that? Because there are obviously some cost advantages to a global approach, but there are also workforce issues and things like that. So it's how do you balance it, and how do you strengthen your economy and your supply chain so you have the jobs and resources locally. The goal is to bring businesses together, understand where there's a fit, where there's something lacking, and have that conversation and mitigate for that. So understand their supply chains and see where there is a local connection. An example of that is Yamasa Corporation, a major sauce manufacturer in the Willamette Valley since 1994. They make soy sauce, and they're located at the Fairview Industrial Park. This year, their leadership team decided to source the wheat locally and reduce their carbon footprint, and given the amount of supply that we have in the region. The said core team, that's our economic development partner, worked with them and a local farm to get the resources to them. And it's just something that's been successful and something they'll pursue. So that's just an example locally of what we can do in the future to, again, offset some of those risks tied to such a global dependency. So if this is important, again, feel free to vote a yes, B, no, or C, unsure.
All right, I think that's everybody we're waiting for.
All right.
So let's keep going.
So the next topic is relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, ensuring that things are equitable for the various members of the community, employment opportunities in particular, given that this is an economic development discussion. So ensuring that you know, that the community has that resource and benefit to you know, be employed and contribute to the economy. There's also so gearing toward targeted training, apprenticeship, internships, disability support. We have career technical and other education opportunities through Shemeketa and other places to facilitate that and provide assistance in training and transitioning and aligning that you know, deficiency to hopefully an opportunity in the employment realm. This is also a broad topic, an important topic in the strategic plan that we're working on right now, to look at how we have focused urban renewal programs and other incentives and outreach, business growth benefit. How do we get feedback from those and ensure that it's a equitable distribution, and in particular, if there are members of the community or areas that we can improve, making sure that we get that feedback and tailor it to address that fit. So if again, diversity, equity, inclusion topic, if you could please vote. Is it important? A, yes, B, no, or C, ensure?
All right. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, on campus institutions. Major institutions are large employers with campuses creating connectivity between their buildings, can vary in large geographical area, concentrated urban groups. Rapid growth of campus institutions is a national trend. So best practices offer opportunities to plan effectively for this growth while reducing neighborhood impacts, focusing land toward employment lands. Some of these examples locally for Salem, obviously the state Oregon Capitol Mall, the Salem Health Hospital campus, extension campuses opportunities with Western Oregon University, and obviously we have Shemeketa Community College and the Willamette University. So really recognizing those strengths and preparing for how those will change over time, and making sure that we have you know, that's a focus. As far as the strategic plan, we're looking at ways on how that fits. Predominantly what we found with employers is there's a real need to have a trained work. The skills are just becoming more and more important, workplace skills. And so there's that emphasis on education. So making sure that there's the land and resources to provide the education to have the workforce skilled enough to do the jobs. So as far as campus institutions, if you can weigh in, A, yes, B, no, C, ensure.
All right, I think that's everybody.
As far as business innovation, supporting entrepreneurs and helping trade sector businesses scale up is really important. It's happening a lot in Salem. So it's really identifying gaps in that service. And this gets back to like the shared economy. We do have local examples like Gray Lab and Parallel 45, local angel fund. So getting financial and other resources in a place to facilitate business innovation and business growth. Additional things include a new Salem Brewery District, Northwest Agricultural Innovation Hub, and we're also focusing in the strategic plan on initiatives to support entrepreneurship and foster innovative startup and business growth in the community. So again, if this is important, please weigh in. A, yes; B, no; C, unsure, as far as a policy for Salem.
All right, thanks everybody.
So this last one is on, in this case, it's commercial parking, but parking requirements in general. Minimization of parking requirements aids in development process. When land is constrained, it's difficult to set aside land for parking. It's one of those challenges that we see regularly when people are coming in to accommodate their land or their site orientation, and also accommodate the number of parking spaces. This is also a balancing act. It's established by the transit infrastructure that's available in the community, as well as other transportation options. So if it's something that is moved away from, then there needs to be something to replace it to accommodate that access to the employment location. So this is, again, something in the strategic plan that we're looking to incentivize as far as development and advocate for productive incentives. And so it's something when we talk to developers, people anticipating, again, looking at the ride share with Uber, the sharing economy, it's something they look to land use policy to move away from, because it's there's less. I mean, there's dependencies still on the car to get it to places, but it's other options are becoming available. So making sure that the policies match how those things are changing. So if this is something to be considered in this policy approach, please vote yes with A, B, no, or C, unsure.
All righty.
All right.
So if anyone has any questions or comments on the new ideas, if not, the next question is, what new ideas do you have? Are there any ideas that you haven't seen in our vision document or online? Feel free to unmute. There's only a few of us on here, or you can drop it in the chat. I'm also going to put a link in the chat that has the fuller survey of these policy ideas. Go ahead, Austin. So we're going to be doing outreach on policies in through the end of May and probably a little bit beyond, both through these weekly policy meetings as well as the survey that's online, which is in English and in Spanish. We're also meeting with community groups throughout the community virtually to get their thoughts and ideas and feedback. So we'll take all of that input and either add new policies, and revise existing policy ideas, and then present that back to the community and hopefully adopt them along with the updated comprehensive plan by the end of the year. So here's what the survey buttons look like on the Our Salem project website, cityofsalem.net/OurSalem. Feel free to take a look at those. It covers all of the topics, not just economic development, housing, but the full range of topics. And then there's a place there to present your ideas as well. So policies is one big portion of the update to the comprehensive plan, but the other portions are zoning code, and the zoning map. So we're in the process of developing a new interactive map that will be at the zoning level that we will present hopefully by the end of this month, and it will show a proposal for different zones that reflect the vision document and the proposed comprehensive plan map that we presented in March. And you'll have an opportunity to kind of look at what we're proposing and drop comments to let us know if you agree or disagree, what you'd want to change a property to. So again, look for that announcement hopefully by the end of this month. And then in addition, the city council formed a subcommittee of 4 city councilors and 4 planning commissioners to really focus on changes to zoning code that could reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. The city council set a greenhouse gas emissions goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. And so we're looking at different ways in the zoning code to make changes that would really reduce GHG emissions. So the first meeting of that zoning committee will be April 30th, and we sent out an announcement today. I can also drop those dates in the chat, or maybe Austin, you can. And the public will be invited to come to those and participate and provide comments. So hopefully you'll join us then as well. So this is just the timeline. We're kind of in that middle chunk of all the details, policies, zoning code, and then hopefully again, we'll bring the whole thing as a package through the adoption process at the end of this year. So again, just if you have any questions or comments or you think of things later, feel free to give me a call. This is my phone number and my email, or you can sign up to be on our email list through our project website, and I can drop that in the chat as well. And so you'll get all the updates and reminders of meetings and outreach opportunities throughout this project. Go ahead, Austin.
I just noticed a comment in the chat about encouraging apprenticeships with the city of Salem. I'm wondering if maybe Tori or Annie could speak to whether the city offers any apprenticeships or what other apprentice opportunities there are in Salem.
And I'd be curious if the commenter had specific ideas. So I'm just looking at the comment too, but in terms of apprenticeships, so we distinguish between, or I have been reminded to, between internships, mentorships, and apprenticeships. Apprenticeships, my understanding, the only formal apprenticeships that are focused on technical skills or abilities or career in technical paths are through Shemeketa. I believe they have 3 or 4 programs that are apprenticeship programs. The city doesn't have a formal role or way that we support those. We do, we are active in listening to our industries, to our companies, to hear if they are having workforce challenges, if there's a need for new apprenticeship programs, and advocating on behalf of our businesses. But that's what exists. And then there are also the city, through our urban renewal agency, helped to fund a portion of CTEC, the Career and Technical Education Center on Portland Road, which is for high school students and around certain career paths. And that in that program, they have mentorship programs where they can then spend time working in companies in those industries in Salem. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'd also be curious if you have specific ideas, the commenter, if you do. It looks like that was from Lynn. So Lynn, did you have something in mind when you mentioned that, or have you seen interesting things in other communities that you think we should be exploring here in Salem?
And feel free to unmute.
I'm trying. So, in looking at the challenges of repairing sidewalks, at one point I met with CTEC, and they do have youth that are working in the community. And I know that one idea was to encourage, a seasonal worker to work under, the sidewalk team. I was told there is a challenge in finding employees and keeping a lot of that team in place. And it would be, I thought, a great opportunity for like a win-win for the youth of the community to be able to do what's the hard, heavy work with sidewalks, and have the experienced people be able to save their backs a little bit, and then I hopefully identify some youth that would be a good fit to be trained, into the program. And I was told that that wasn't done. So anyway, it was an idea that didn't really gain fruition. CTEC was interested, but the city was not. So
I appreciate you raising that, Lynn, because through another channel, through Willamette Workforce Partnership, our local or regional workforce organization, we've learned about a program that the city of Newburgh is going to utilize, or I believe there is just being considered by their city council. They hope to utilize, which is sounds kind of similar to what you're describing. So I'll put a note in the chat, but we do have some language in our economic development strategy, which is running concurrently with this and is a more short-term plan around kind of evaluating and pursuing those programs. So we will reach out to those at the city that have talked about it previously, and maybe there's some differences with this partnership or by another city exploring it first and learning. Maybe there's some lessons learned in a way for us to still consider something like that. So thank you.
Great. Are there any other last comments or questions from anyone? If not, I will not hold you here, even though we're wrapping up early. I just want to say thank you to Tori, Annie, and Austin. And thank you everyone for joining us. If you're interested, I think transportation, is that right, Austin? Is our next topic on Wednesday. So hope to see you then. Thank you.
So Eunice, can I
Thank
say
you.
real quick?
Oh yeah, that's right. No, go ahead.
I started to type it in the chat and I wasn't fast enough. If you are interested in seeing what our initial draft outline of the economic development strategy, again, short-term COVID recovery focused, looks like we're taking an information report to council on April 26th. So those staff reports are online the Thursday before. So you're welcome to take a look at that. So thank you.
Sorry, Annie, jumped the gun. Yeah, there's a lot of work going on in the city, and so it's all interrelated. So if you have questions and or comments, and you direct it to me, but it's more appropriate for the economic development strategy, I'll pass that on, and vice versa. So feel free to contact us any way you feel like you want to. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.